Well, that's good. Let me poke the button here.
I think I got it, Jim. Sorry, I forgot to record it before. व्याघ्रबुद्धय विनिर्मुक्तो बाणः पश्चात्तु गोमतौ न तिष्ठति छिन्नत्येव लक्ष्यं वेगेन निर्भरम्. Thinking it to be a tiger, if an arrow is shot at an object, does not then stop because it turns out to be a cow. It still pierces it with full force.
All right, so I messed up the story. It wasn't a deer, it was a cow. Sorry. But now he follows the story. The prarabdha will continue to fulfill itself in life. So you may have come in wanting to have a sexy wife or husband, or to be successful in business, or thinking, oh, I'm going to be a failure in business because I've been too attached to money. All sorts of funny things we set up in motion. But in the end, it doesn't matter when knowledge dawns on the mind. Next verse.
प्रारब्धं बलवत्तरं खलु विदां भोगेन तस्य क्षयः सम्यग् ज्ञानहुताशनेन विलयः प्राक् सञ्चितागामिनां भ्रामत्मैक्यम् अवेक्ष्य तन्मयतया ये सर्वदा संस्थिता तेषां तन्त्रितयं न हि क्वचिदपि ब्रह्मैव ते निर्गुणम्. Prarabdha is very powerful for the realized man and becomes not only through the exhaustion of its fruits, while the Sanchita and Agami are destroyed in the fire of perfect knowledge. But none of these three affect them who have realized Brahman and always live identified with it. They are truly the transcendental Brahman.
So the sanchita, the karmas of the past which have yet to fructify, the agami karmas, the karmas of the future that we set up in this lifetime, are roasted by the fire of knowledge. So all that's left is the prarabdha, the karma of this body in the now. But for the man or woman of wisdom, even that has no real power because of their identification of the self. Not only do I know that I am Brahman, but I know all this is Brahman. All is Maya, all is bliss. So she has no real concern for it. Next verse.
उपाधितादात् मया विहीन केवल ब्रह्मात्मनैवात्मनि तिष्ठतो मुनेः प्रारब्धसद्भावकथा न युक्ता स्वप्नार्थसम्बन्धकथेव जाग्रतः. The sage who is ever absorbed in his own self as Brahman, non-dual and free from limitations, the question of the existence of prarabdha is meaningless, just as the question of a man having anything to do with dream objects is meaningless when he has awakened.
So Again, it is the ignorant among us that is concerned about the activities of the person of wisdom. For the woman or the man of realization, Prarabdha, who cares? If you have a vivid dream, does it affect you? If you have deep sleep with no dream, does it affect you, the waker? There's no regret for the past, no particular concern for the future, and indifference to the present. All this is like a dream. Don't worry, be happy. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
न हि प्रबुद्धः प्रतिभासदेहे देहोपयोगिन्यपि च प्रपञ्चे करोत्यहन्तां ममतामिदन्ताम् किन्तु स्वयं तिष्ठति जागरेण. He who has awakened from sleep has no idea of I and mine with respect to the dream body, nor for the dream objects related to it. He lives ever awake as his own self.
So, the person of wisdom who's awakened to their real nature, that I am Brahman, has no more any concern for what happens to the physical body, its successes and failures, its joys and its sorrows. Just like when you wake up, you might go, oh yeah, that was a really vivid dream. Now, what was it? It fades. And what overwhelms and consumes the mind of the person of wisdom is Brahman everywhere. Next one.
न तस्य मिथ्यार्थसमर्थनेच्छा न सङ्ग्रहस्तज्जगतोऽपि दृष्टः तत्रानुवृत्तिः यदि चेन् मृषार्थे न निद्रया मुक्त इतीष्यते ध्रुवम्. He does not wish to prove the unreal objects to be real, nor is it observed that he maintains the dream world. If he still holds on to the unreal objects, he is emphatically declared to be not yet free from sleep.
Yes. So if a person wakes up and says, oh, I want the Rolls Royce I had in my dream, I want to go back there. It's a fool. Likewise for the woman or the man of wisdom. If they're still jonesing for this world, if they're still concerned about I and mine, you and me, you're still asleep. You're still asleep. And again, this is not to check out other people. This is for our own son. Next one.
तद्वत्परे ब्रह्मणि वर्तमानः सदात्मना तिष्ठति नान्यदीक्षते स्मृतिर्यथा स्वप्नविलोकितार्थे तथाविधः प्राशनमोचनादौ. So too the man who remains identified with the eternal reality does not perceive anything else. Just as one remembers having seen the objects in the dream, the realized man remembers his day to day acts of eating, etc.
So, just like you can wake up and you can say, oh, yes, I remember having such this wonderful, beautiful banquet in my dream. So, also, rather than after the fact, but in the present, the woman or man of wisdom can remember what they had for lunch, can look at their cell phone and say, yes, I have these appointments tomorrow. And be happy when an object of desire appears. May be annoyed a little. But never sees any of it as anything real. Here Shankara says, just have no real concern for this world. It's all in God's hands. It's all going to work out. In a sense, we're going all the way back to that very first qualification of a fit student. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The Jagat, the phenomenal world, is Mithya. It's illusion, which includes your own body, mind, intellect. It's not real. There's nothing to be gained, nothing to be lost. It's just fulfilling its role in the divine plan. And when God thinks you're no longer useful, out you go. And none of it touches you. Next one.
कर्मणा निर्मितो देहः प्रारब्धं तस्य कल्प्यताम् नानादेरात्मनो युक्तं नैवात्मा कर्म निर्मितः. The body has been fashioned by prarabdha, so no one except that relates to the body. But it is not reasonable to attribute it to the self, for the Atman is never the result of any earlier work.
So we can attribute prarabdha to the body, but not to the self. So I am wearing a cotton shirt. The cause of the cotton shirt were the little cotton plants going through all the manufacturing process. Actually, my dhoti is what they call khadi cloth. So this was all hand loomed in India. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Tonight I'll take them off, throw them in the dirty clothes pile. No relationship to them. They are not me. So again, if we say the body of the person of wisdom has prarabdha, that's important for ignorant people. Oh, Guruji, he is so kind. Oh, Swamiji, he was so tough on so and so. But for the person of wisdom, no relationship to it. You have no relation to your equipment. Give up your petty concerns for it. Next verse.
Ajo nitya shashvata iti brute shrutiramodhavak tadatmana tishthatosya kutah prarabdha kalpana. The Atman is birthless, eternal, and undecaying. Such is the absolute declaration of Shruti. How can Prarabdha be attributed to him who lives ever identified with that?
So, the woman or man of knowledge is identified with his or herself, which is birthless, changeless, deathless. There is no prarabdha for me. Again, I've shared this with you before. I was at a camp, and one of the delegates came up and said, Swamiji, when will you be coming to Allahabad? And he goes, I go nowhere. Allahabad passes in front of me. So if the little Swami went there, I illumine it all. Have no concern. Be out of control. Next one.
Prarabdham siddhyati tada. Prarabdham siddhyati tada. Yada dehatmana sthitihi देहात्मभावो नैवेष्टः प्रारब्धं त्यज्यतामतः. Only as long as one lives identified with one's body can one accept prarabdha works. But no one accepts that a man of realization ever identifies himself with his body. Hence, in this case, the prarabdha world should be rejected.
So, only the body has prarabdha, the mark of the person of realization is they are not identified with the body. Therefore, there is no prarabdha for the man or woman of wisdom. Why do we have the teaching then? For the ignorant, so that there is an explanation for what they perceive as real, the actions, the behaviors of the mind. But for you, stay ever identified with that reality. Have no concern for this body. Yeah, but how am I going to eat? What about my rent? Don't worry. Prarabdha will take care of it. The body will get hungry, you'll find yourself cooking dinner. Or your friends will bring you dinner. Where are we going to live? What are we going to do? Don't worry about it. It'll all work out. Always. Should I quit this job? Should I keep this job? Who cares? If you feel like quitting, quit. What if I make a mistake? You can't make a mistake. Prarabdha was written an eternity ago. You're going to do what you're going to do. Don't worry about it. And don't worry about anybody else. They're going to
Can I ask you a question?
what they're going to do. Sure.
What about ahimsa, cause no harm? Should I not worry about my actions in some way?
Who's doing the worrying?
Well, the mind, yes.
So, Justin, we have to understand for whom are we talking? Notice that we've had a progression of teaching.
Yeah.
And once you've mastered an earlier part of the teaching, and we take on a new one, it appears to, in many ways, invalidate and make superfluous the earlier teaching. So by the time you are here at the end of Viveka Chudamani, supposedly you've been a yogi long enough that you've given up being an asshole.
Okay. Well,
Making sense?
Yeah. I just got a ways to go. I still notice myself in my meditation. Is what you're saying. I comes into everything still in my life.
So that's where you are.
Yeah.
You're not yet where Shankar is talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. My apologies. Thank you.
This is just the teaching, and as I said, this is very advanced teaching. One of the things I said at the beginning, I said, if you will do everything Shankara suggests, I can virtually guarantee self-realization. Usually when we get to this point about giving up vasanas, there's a split. You may intellectually understand from that point on, but we are no longer doing what Shankara suggests. And therefore we do not get the fruits of what he's teaching. So for that part, we read it, we know it's there, that's to inspire us. And as we always do, Justin, at the end of the book, we're going to chant the first verse. Why? We start over.
Constant creation and destruction, like it says in there.
Hmm?
The constant creation and destruction, like one of the premises of the Vedas.
No, well, it means some of us are slower than others, and it takes a
Okay.
longer. That's all.
My apologies. Thanks.
No need to apologize. But again, this seems absurd if, for example, someone is really identified with their ego and afflicted by compulsive negative behaviors. This is not the teaching for them yet. Remember what St. Augustine says. Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So keep at it. And again, I always say, strive for authenticity. Don't try to be spiritual. That's just another ego state.
Spiritual is just another ego state.
If you walk around trying to, so everybody sees how whether
Yeah.
your halo is glowing.
I agree with that one. Yes.
All right. Any other questions on this? Shall we go on? How many more verses in this section, Ganesh?
3 verses.
Okay, I think we'll finish it up. We'll go a little bit over tonight.
शरीरस्यापि प्रारब्ध कल्पना भ्रान्तिरेव हि अध्यस्तस्य कुतः सत्त्वम् असत्यस्य कुतो जनिः अजातस्य कुतो नाशः प्रारब्धम् असतः कुतः. To attribute prarabdha even to the body is decidedly an illusion. How can a superimposition have any existence? How can the unreal have a birth? And that which is never born, how can it die? So how can prarabdha function for something unreal?
So before we've said, okay, it's only the body that has prarabdha, not the self. The man of wisdom is identified as the self. Well, now let's look at, let's say, our snake in the rope. Can we say the snake in the rope was born of the egg of another snake? Can we say that the snake in the rope has a destiny of good or bad? No. It's a superimposition. It's nothing real. So actually, we can't even say that prarabdha is real for the body. How can something that's just an imagined thing have laws of cause and effect? Next verse.
ज्ञानेन अज्ञानकार्यस्य समूलस्य लयो यदि तिष्ठत्ययं कथं देह इति शङ्कावतो जडान् समाधातुं बाह्यदृष्ट्याय प्रारब्धं वदति श्रुतिः. If the effects of ignorance are destroyed, root and all, by knowledge, how does the body continue to live? Shruti, from a relative standpoint, hypothesizes the work of prarabdha for those fools who entertain such doubts.
So, if you have the idea with the dawn of knowledge, all vasana has been roasted, how can the body continue to live? There is no such thing as a jivan mukta, it's only liberation after death. The existence of the body is the proof that liberation is not there. Shankara is saying nonsense. The Shruti posits the doctrine of prarabdha, kind of like the little 6-year-old who says, "Mommy, where do babies come from?" The stork brings them, dear. Now eat your pongo. It's not true, but it satisfies the mind of the 6-year-old. So for those who want to figure destiny out because they think astrology is real, the body is real, oh, this is my destiny, I have to suffer in the month of May. But for the person of wisdom, all is Maya, all is bliss. The last verse of this section.
न तु देहादिसत्यत्वबोधनाय विपश्चितां यतः श्रुतेरभिप्रायः परमार्थेकगोचरः. The idea of prarabdha has been expounded by the Upanishads, not for proving the reality of the body, etc., for the man of realization, because the Upanishads are without exception striving to point out the one supreme reality.
So the purpose of the Upanishads is to point out Ayamatma Brahma, this self is Brahman. Again, the teaching on prarabdha is for those who have yet to realize it, to explain the fact that I see the woman of knowledge acting in the world. Very interesting section. Any questions? Now, again, when someone is having suffering in their life, we do not say to them, oh, it's just dreamlike images. You are the self. Why are you so concerned? We meet them where they are. You may know. Oh, my. Meet them where they are. Be compassionate. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all, and thank you, Ganesh, for chanting.
What verse are we off stopping on?
I don't know. I don't have the book in front of me.
Ganesh, can you tell me?
Ganesh, what's the next verse?
We are in a new section. There is no
72?
plurality. Yeah, 465.
465.
Okay, sorry about that. Fine.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Good
Jim.
night. Thank you.